7, or chapter
Verse
7.
7, yeah.
Verse 7 of every chapter.
Yes.
My son, obey my words and treasure my commands. Keep my commands and live. Protect my teachings as you would the pupil of your eye. Tie them to your fingers, write them on the tablet of your heart. Say to wisdom, you are my sister, and call understanding your relative. She will keep you from a forbidden woman, a stranger with her flattering talk. At the window of my house, I looked through my lattice. I saw among the inexperienced, I noticed among the youths, a young man lacking sense. Crossing the street near her corner, he strolled down the road to her house at twilight, in the evening, in the dark of the night. A woman came to meet him dressed like a prostitute, having a hidden agenda. She is loud and defiant. Her feet do not stay at home. Now in the street, now in the squares, she lurks at every corner. She grabs him and kisses him. She brazenly says to him, I've made fellowship offerings. Today I fulfilled my vows. So I came out to meet you, to search for you, and I found you. I spread coverings on my bed, richly colored linen from Egypt. I've perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let's drink deeply of lovemaking until morning. Let's feast on each other's love. My husband isn't home. He went on a long journey. He took a bag of money with him and will come home at the time of the full moon. She seduces him with her persistent pleading. She lures him with flattering talk. He follows her impulsively like an ox going to the slaughter, like a deer bounding towards a trap, until an arrow pierces its liver, like a bird darting into a snare. He doesn't know it will cost him his life. Now, my sons, listen to me and pay attention to the words of my mouth. Don't let your heart turn aside to her ways. Don't stray onto her paths. For she has brought many down to death. Her victims are countless. Her house is the road to Sheol, descending to the chambers of death.
Sounds like us men should stay away from the women. We'll be all set.
But not real women.
Like
Metaphor.
it says in verse 2, towards the end of it, says, for my teaching is as precious as your eyesight. Like, it just kind of caught my attention because you know how valuable our eyesight is to us, because when we're blind, there's not a whole lot we can do.
Yeah,
That just
and,
kinda struck me.
and to tie them to your fingers and write them on the tablet of your heart, like that even extends it more, because like it's just constantly something that you, if you're tying them to your fingers, you see it constantly in your heart. You can't see it, but
I have a Bible note on that verse. Because it depending on what version, it uses the phrase the apple of your eye.
Mm-hmm.
And it says apple is a metaphor for the center or pupil of the eye. Damage to the pupil may result in blindness, so we have eyelids and quick reflex system to protect it. We're to be as concerned about the teachings of Proverbs as the body is concerned about the protection of the pupil. Without wisdom, we are spiritually blind. Love wisdom like a sister.
And it's just really interesting. It says like in 4 and 5, it says, say wisdom, I love you, and understanding, you're my sweetheart. And it's like, because it's, if you don't look at the literal thing, it's like, well, actually, you got to say that, do you? Or I think it's more so like
the way you feel about it.
Yeah, like how much you value that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just seems kind of funny to say that out loud.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Wisdom,
just weird.
you're my sweetheart.
I like verse 7. I noticed among the young men a youth who had no sense. And then 8. He was going down the street near her corner, walking along in the direction of her house. And then 9. at twilight, as the day was fading, as the dark of night set in. And then 20. But then, get your mind in Bible study, Bob. Then out came a woman to meet him, dressed like a prostitute, with crafty intent.
What about that?
I'm getting there. I lost it. Yeah. Us as young men are like boys, so to speak, that when we first notice something of interest, we act on it instantly. Instead of thinking, is this good, is this bad, we just go to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we see, or as we're young men, we see a very attractive woman, and all of a sudden we act on it. We don't think before we act. We just.
So what is it that you have if instead of acting, you don't act right away?
Wisdom. What's this?
Great.
What is this verse about? What is this chapter about?
Exactly.
And now think
So
about
you just you reiterated that point about.
It's kind of like the title for chapter 8, Wisdom's Call. Of nature.
The thing that struck me about verse 8 too was, it says, then he turned, I think we touched on this last week if I'm remembering right, but when he turned to the corner and going on his way, as he hurried on to the house of the harlot,
Mm-hmm.
the woman he had planned to meet. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't, he was already past the point, he was already past the point of where he already got seduced before they even got in the bedroom, pretty much. Because later on in the chapter it says about her type can be found soliciting on street corners on just about any night. Like she probably, I'm guessing this is one of the guys that while she was out and about looking for who she could get, one of the ones that came on later and like, oh, I'm gonna go and sleep with her. So like he was already well along in the process. Whereas I think like some of the other translations kind of, I don't know, the way they word it almost make it sound like he hadn't yet been deceived yet. It almost sounds like, but this is like he's going right there with a purpose. It's like, okay.
But I wonder if this could also fall into the description of someone who's out walking with no intent of hooking up the prostitute.
Yeah.
But then it says, as young men, half the time you're not out looking for that, but you come across it, and then the crazy intent hits.
So
Be interesting to read what the original, because like mine kind of says he was crossing the street near the house of an immoral woman strolling down the path by her house.
See,
which like to me, I look at that and it's like he wasn't necessarily out looking for her.
It just wasn't smart for him, even regardless of whether maybe he didn't know that she lived there and that she was going to come out and seduce him. But it sounds like she hadn't done so yet. So it's weird how they word it differently.
So after last week, when I just read this, I did not think of this story at all in the literal sense. Like I wasn't envisioning this as like a literal thing because of what we talked about last week. Like I'm trying to train my brain to.
I know it's easy to get
up on.
Well, this is clearly both.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm trying to think of it more because like I get the literal sense because like.
Yeah, that part makes it easy to make sense of it. Yeah.
I get it. But I'm trying to think of it from the spiritual sense. Like,
I think it's pretty clear, like to like read everything that's happening to this guy, and it's easy to like throw the world in there.
Right.
Like,
Or even Satan
Right,
himself.
and like Satan trying to tear him.
Yeah.
I mean, because when chapter 23, well, 22, he follows her impulsively like an ox going to the slaughter, like we blindly follow. I mean, like we blindly do. Like a deer bounding towards a trap until an arrow pierces its liver. He doesn't know it will cost him his life.
Yeah, because when you think about it, this uses sex as an example because it's one of the more powerful desires,
Well,
and
it's
it's
an illustration everybody
one of the
understands.
easiest ones to be seduced by.
Right.
But there's many other desires that we have, like for power, for money, and other stuff like that, that the world and the enemy can use too to seduce.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. And like verse 12, like I just read before, her type can be found listening in the street corners on just about every night. There's a really long footnote for this one, so bear with me. But it says, the parable not only warns against the obvious evils of adultery and immorality, but also serves as a warning to the anointed young men in ministry to not be seduced by the religious system.
mm-hmm.
Wisdom looks from the window of her house and sees a young man who has placed himself in the path of sin. This made him vulnerable to the seduction of the harlot system of a works-based religion that enticed him into her bed covered with Egyptian linens. And this is interesting. Egypt is a picture of the world system that holds people in bondage. I thought that was kind of interesting. He said, she is loud and stubborn, the old self-life never dealt with, and will not remain in her house, the true church of Jesus. She lives in the darkness of compromise, and her ways are the ways of death. She doesn't remain faithful to her husband, the bridegroom God. The two women of Proverbs are the harlot mentioned here and the virtuous woman found in chapter 31, who speak of two systems of worship. One is true and virtuous, the other is false and seductive.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to point out, like how the two women are polar opposites.
Yeah.
Well, what I noticed right off the bat is that this chapter is, for the most part, wisdom watching what's going down, like as from wisdom's perspective.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. But that wisdom is always in that same place. Like we know where wisdom is at, like in the house. It never leaves. Like wisdom is always the same. Yet it's the opposite of the immoral woman who says she's never at home. She's always out, wandering around.
Yeah.
Looking for
Yeah. So you get like that opposite. Wisdom's always right there. And wisdom's watching you, like from the window. Like all you have to do is turn around and look up, and that you know where wisdom is.
Yeah.
Yet when you leave wisdom behind, you make yourself vulnerable to everything that's all around you. And I think her version even said like it's like loud.
loud and defiant.
Yeah.
Her feet do not stay at home.
Yeah. Which is exactly how the world is. It's loud, screaming for our attention.
Yeah.
While wisdom is still in her place, waiting and watching.
Something that strikes me too, and this is just something I think that I've dealt with in my personal life. Like, I'm not saying anything that we don't already know, but I'm just like reiterating the fact that we all know, I think we all know if we have the Holy Spirit in us what's wise. for the most part.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean that we don't still have the choice to ignore that wisdom.
Mhm.
And if we do that, then that, I don't know, I'm just like thinking
That's
through
where the
all
whole-
my life, like
Yeah.
decisions I made. Like I've made some really bad decisions. Like just really, really bad decisions.
There were
And
some consequences for them.
there were. But I think about, I knew that they were the wrong things to do. Like when I was doing it, I knew it was a bad decision. But it's just like that. We always have a choice on whether or not we want to like push that wisdom out. Or if we want to like heed that wisdom and, oh my gosh, this is a really stupid thing to do. But then when we push the wisdom out, like, I don't know, I just think of, and this is probably more than I should share, but I'm just going to share it anyway, because, you know, I'm an open book or whatever, but, like, in my when I was married the first time, like, I was not happy. There were some things that were going on, and, you know, Scott at work, like, this guy that I worked with would be like, you smell really nice today. Or you look really nice today. You know, and I'm like, I'm like in a bad place anyway. And it's like that, you have that choice of wisdom. Like, do I feed into that? Am I naive? You know, like, and I just think of that. And then if you push wisdom aside, then that's when the things start getting worse. And am I making sense? I'm just like thinking of.
Well, that's a good point you bring up, because it calls the man or the men that wisdom saw naive. And I think that a lot of times, especially Christians, are naive to the fact that they aren't above that human nature.
Mm-hmm.
Like we think, well, I'm a Christian, I got the Holy Spirit in me, so this thing that would affect other people won't affect me.
Yeah.
So it's okay if I put myself out there, when it's not.
No.
It's actually more dangerous.
Yeah, because that's that arrogance,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot. Like, you think, oh, well, I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
Especially
I can do this because I'm okay.
Especially with that desire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the worst. I mean, that, in my opinion, that is the worst thing to toy with. Because it's just, in my experience, by the time you've decided that it's the wrong thing to do, you've already done what you didn't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I think that's why that's the example that you use, like you said, like, because it's just such
it's a powerful
thing.
Well, a little side note here. So the question is, what's wrong with this sexual encounter that's happening here? It says sexual relations outside of marriage are wrong. In this passage, sin is compounded because the woman was already married.
Yeah.
Even if two such adults claim to love one another, their relationship is still sinful. Such a relationship turns one's heart from godliness and leads to all kinds of complications, even death. Sexual sin is uniquely dangerous because it binds two people at the soul level in a way intended only for marriage.
Yep.
And just think too, and take people at work as an example, like the sake of, when you're not married and you say you just got together a few months ago and you're already hopping in bed together, and especially one of the people already has a history of cheating on their significant other, And as soon as that happens again, your heart's going to be ripped to shreds, and you're going to be regretting it, possibly for the rest of your life.
People do not understand the soul tie thing, like that act, like you are binding yourself to that person, like for the rest of your life. Like, and it's not a thing that we can comprehend in our human mind, because that sounds ridiculous.
I think that's one of those things where, like, until you hopefully don't wait till marriage, but until you experience that, you don't know what that's like on the inside, I guess, because you kind of have to take it by faith beforehand to avoid doing that. But like, once you experience it, you probably understand it better, what that means to be bound to somebody than if you were a virgin.
And I don't know what you had to do. I mean, but we've both been married before, so obviously we've both had, and it really, like, I had to work through trying to release myself from that soul tie that I had with Jason. Like, because you don't want to, like, it's, you're bound. And that's why, like, this is such a good example of that, because it is a binding.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know anything else that you can do that, like, binds you with.
Not like that.
Not like that. Like, that's I mean, you have consequences that you pay, but that's not the same as, like, binding yourself.
And I found something that was neat too. There's another footnote for verse 14. It says about come with me and it'll be all right. I've got everything we need for a feast. I'll cook you a wonderful dinner. And it's talking about the dinner part here, and it says,
I got something interesting on that too.
Yeah, or offered peace offerings and paid my vows in the temple. This is a way of saying I have lots of meat left over from the sacrifices I've offered. Enough for a great meal. So I'm like, that took me back. I'm like, wait, so she's given stuff that she sacrificed either to God himself or to another God. That's kind of nasty. Because I'm like, that's definitely blasphemous. I'm like, wow.
But also kind of, in a way, fooling this guy into making him believe that she's a spiritual woman, because she's offering, I've already offered my sacrifice to the Lord. And this is saying ceremonial law required that meat used in such a sacrifice had to be eaten the same day.
Right.
Oh, okay.
None could be left until morning.
Okay, that makes sense.
The seductive woman lured the foolish man by suggesting that she had a sumptuous dinner that had to be eaten before daybreak. She perversely turned an act of worship into an occasion for sexual sin.
That makes more
lied to
sense.
him.
Yeah, I didn't realize about
going
that
to hell
eating
for
on the
sure.
same day thing. Huh.
Oh my gosh, that just, like, I think of all the excuses. Like, I know that this is not literal. I mean, it is literal, but it's also spiritual. But you think of all the excuses, like, that people use for, like, why you should hook up. Like, I hear all these excuses at work.
Yeah.
Like, and so, like, that is just another one. Like,
And you can poke holes in each and every one of them.
We've only got until tonight to eat this meat, so.
Can you imagine somebody actually saying that though? I'm like, all right,
Like,
that makes me really want to hop in bed with you now.
They've progressed
But it's like,
over the years.
Kind of tricky you going out with.
you almost see this woman, though, using prophecy to her advantage. Because in 15, she says, "You're the one I was looking for. I came out to find you, and here you are." Almost as if to say, like, God gave me this vision of you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because how would she have known?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go, man.
Don't even go there. But yeah, I know what you mean with that.
The thing I think that stands out to me, too, is So, verse 21, she seduces him with persistent pleading. She lures him with flattering talk. So, basically, she's wearing him down.
Wasn't
And, like,
necessarily instantly.
And I'm
but-
thinking of all, like, in the spiritual context part, like, well, and even in the literal sense, like, how many times has someone done, like, said something or whatever, so many times you're just like, fine,
Mm-hmm.
like, just do it, or, like, well, just whatever, whatever the case may be. And she lures with flattering talk, and I think of, like how you feel special, like when people flatter you, but like this is just an example of how there is nothing special about you. It's just she's trying to corrupt you, basically.
Mhm.
Like there's nothing. I don't mean that in a bad way, but like it's not you. If it weren't you, it would be you, and if it wasn't you, it would be you. Like. Like there's nothing special. It's just that's her goal is to.
Still going to struggle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not grounded in what you need to be grounded in, then the persistent pleading and the flattering talk really will affect you.
Mm-hmm.
And
But it says
put you right down the same
either
path.
that, or if you're able to remove yourself from her completely.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you, it will cost you your life.
Mhm.
If you're.
Yeah, and that's really like the solution. 24 to 27. Listen to me. Pay attention to my words. Don't let your heart stray towards her. Don't wander down her path. For she's been the ruin of many. Many men have been her victims. Her house is the road to the grave. Her bedroom is the den of death. Like, basically, you know what you should and shouldn't do. You know where you can and can't go. So don't go there, and you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Don't push your limits.
Yeah.
If you know,
And like you said, don't put yourself in a situation where you think that you're above whatever the case
Mhm.
may be, because that's just.
now let's go beyond sex. If you have a problem with alcohol, don't go to a bar,
Yeah. Makes sense.
or don't go to a restaurant that serves alcohol.
Which is hard to find nowadays.
Right. But if that's
But if it's a
something,
problem,
Because you know what you really know what you can handle and what you can't.
right?
because you should never put yourself above.
Mhm.
Like, cause okay, so like going to a bar would be like the man going straight to the prostitute's house.
Mhm.
Going to a restaurant that serves alcohol is like walking the path near her house.
Right.
You're going to get trapped either way. One is just a more direct route.
Yeah.
Okay. If you have a problem with lust, maybe don't watch movies that you know there's going to be sex in them.
Then watch The Notebook.
Okay. Don't watch TV shows that are going to make your mind wander. If you have a problem with cursing, don't. Be careful of the music you listen to and the movies you watch and the TV shows you listen to.
So pretty much listen to country and Christian music.
Country.
Country's questionable.
Always country. I don't know about
Is
that.
And it doesn't even
If
have
you're-
to be anything like. Those are like serious things, but it
Mhm.
could be.
If your problem is gluttony,
Well, I was gonna say, or
maybe don't go to Ryan's.
yeah, good Lord.
Don't
Well,
go
like
to
they
don't go
roll me
to
out
Olive
there
Garden.
Oh,
You get the same
man.
one as Olive
Don't say that. No Olive
even
Garden?
if your problem, like, it doesn't even have to be that serious. Like, if you spend money, like, if you have a problem with spending money,
Yeah,
like,
but all sin is the same.
well, I know, but I'm saying, like, just throwing out other
Yeah.
things. Spending money is not necessarily sinful, depending on
If you spend all your money and
what you're doing. But anyway,
or if
like,
you know you have a money problem, spend all your money. Otherwise, that means you don't have money to spend, even if you really want to.
It really just comes down to like we know
we know, Yeah,
where our weak points are.
I feel like temptation and wisdom are linked. Like there could be cousins or something. Wisdom
polar
says don't fall in.
opposite cousins.
No, yeah.
Because temptation's like the exact opposite, I think, of wisdom.
Wisdom is telling
Maybe
you to
not
not
exact.
fall into temptation, but temptation is screw wisdom and go at it anyway.
Right. Yeah, they're both fighting. Well, I don't know that wisdom is fighting, but
Like bipolar cousins, kind of.
yes, they're opposite.
Like, I know that I can't get on Facebook because if I do, I will get my mouth will get me in trouble because I can't handle the negativity that is involved with it, and I get sucked into
The drama.
yeah, and I'll offend people. I'll get into fights with people. Not only that, but there's the temptation of women on Facebook. It's
Maybe it's not.
Oh, yeah?
Facebook's basically
Oh, yeah?
the biggest free dating website on the internet.
For free. That you don't have to pay for to talk to people.
That's why I said free.
I didn't hear that.
So like,
the temptation or tempted by this
so for me, like, I know that I need to stay away from Facebook for those reasons because I can't. One of my problems is my mouth, and like, I try really hard to keep my thoughts from coming out at people that the thoughts that shouldn't be there,
But you need
And that's
Jesus
one
to
place
see if
that I can't handle, so I stay away from it.
So as Mr. Mish used to tell me, you have diarrhea of the mouth, constipation of the brain.
If I put myself in that situation.
I just have diarrhea and constipation, period.
That's nice, Bob.
Constipation.
What do you do if your problem is something that you can't not do?
Put yourself in a 10 by 10 room with
What,
padded
driving?
walls and
I
take public transportation.
here's honesty time today.
Uber.
Yeah, public
Honest-
transportation.
Honesty time.
Take the bus to work and take the bus back.
I legit followed this, like, whatever those trucks are. I think they're concrete trucks that like have those spinny things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I followed him all down Route 30 this morning.
Doing like
I
15 miles an hour.
don't think that he topped 30 miles an hour the whole way. And I'm like super early for work, like super early. But I was trying to get there at a certain time to get my overtime. So at Melrose, where the high station is, he was turning left. And I'm listening to Word FM. I'm singing my Christian songs. As soon as he pulled over into the left-hand lane, I revved it in my parents' car, which I shouldn't have done. Drove past him and turned my head, and I was like, "Why are you driving like an idiot?" Like, I'm yelling. And like instantly, as soon as I said it, I was like, "God, why do I do this?" Like, it's like I turn into this like totally different
Psychotic
person.
driver.
So then for the rest of my time at driving to work, I had this whole conversation with God trying to figure out why I act like this. Like, why am I this person? Because if you tell people, they don't believe it. Because they're like, you would never. Like, I tell the girls at work, and they're like, you're totally making that up. You would never act like that. And I'm like, I do.
You do.
I do. I know you know I do. And like, I knew it. It's so funny because I knew a lot of times I don't feel like convicted about it, which is probably bad. But like today, I instantly felt convicted about it. Like instant.
Well, just think of it this way. This is how you're starting every morning
I
of your day,
know. I know.
which is not good.
I know.
And then, not to make you feel bad,
Yeah. Thanks.
But- you're throwing that onto me when you're doing that
Oh,
while
I
I'm
know.
in the car with
I
you.
know.
So,
So, but the thing is, I feel like my instant conviction today is growth.
because conviction's good.
Yes. Like, I instantly felt guilty. Like, really guilty. Not, like, bad guilty. You know, like, it wasn't, like, a consuming guilt, but I felt really bad about it. So I was like, okay, God, keep doing that. Till I get to the point where it doesn't bother me.
Mhm.
And then I started thinking about, why does it really, like, what is the root cause of why it bothers me? And then I'm like, I think it's selfishness. Like, because we all think that we're just more important than everybody else. Me getting to work is more important than this guy getting to work. And sorry, I took a little turn there, but, like, I felt like wisdom and, like, conviction were working for me today.
I know exactly what you mean with that, though. That's why it's like I know the best thing for me to do is, I mean, you were early anyway, so it's like,
Mhm.
for me, if I get, the earlier I am, the less in a hurry I am, the easier it is to not do that.
But I find that it doesn't even matter if I'm early.
Mhm.
Like, it's just an inconvenience to me because I feel like I should be driving the speed limit at all times. So if you get in front of me and prevent me from driving the speed limit, then I have a problem with you. And that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. When I say it out loud, it sounds so self-entitled and ridiculous. But I can't, like, in my mind when I try and, like,
Just, I think a lot of people struggle in that area.
It's
And that
just
really
like,
just, you need the renewing of the mind.
yeah.
You need God to, like, change your perspective on driving. Because, like, anyone who's driven with me knows that,
You're like the most calm driver.
yeah, because to me, like, getting in a car and driving is, like, relaxing. And,
and it's like we'll get there when we get there.
like, yeah, like, there's nothing that I can do to change what's happening on the road.
Sure there is. You could ride their bumper and make them pull over.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't work.
I know.
It doesn't work. Like, and I used.
I know,
to,
it just pisses
It's
people
funny
off and they go
because-
slow
because I
do
used
that.
to be. I used to be that person. I used to be the person
I
that
don't believe that.
if I knew someone was in a hurry behind me, I would purposely slow down and I would
do that.
drive 10 under, or I would tailgate people.
Or
Or I would throw my hands up in the air and call people idiots.
Mhm.
And something in me changed where I realized that driving is a very relaxing experience. It's a
not
really
that
great
serious.
time to spend with God. And no matter what I try to do to change what's happening on the road around me,
It's not changing
nothing will ever change what's happening on the road around me. What
See-
is happening will happen.
I'm
Yeah.
the kind of person that, like, if we're at a red light and it turns green and I don't catch it right away and then you want to honk your horn behind me, I'm the kind of person that I will purposely sit at that light until it's about to turn red and then I'll go.
I've been in situations, even recently, where I've been behind someone at a red light and the light has turned green and I can see them up there on their cell phone and they're not moving. No, most people will be like, "Arr, arr, arr."
People honk before the light even changes.
Oh, well, I mean, they shouldn't be on their cell phone while they're driving, but oh well.
I need to learn from you.
If I know I'm leaving in enough time to get to where I need to be when I need to be there without being late, I've got nothing, like, I
But the
can't
guy
change
who-
anything.
The guy today was cutting into my overtime time. I know it sounds ridiculous. I play it in my head and I'm like, you sound so ridiculous.
Was any of the death coming out of your mouth helping the situation go any better?
No.
went catfishing.
I did notice that I didn't call him an idiot today. I told him he was driving like an idiot. That's also growth. Usually I tell people. But then I was thinking too, like, what if you're cursing his day?
Mm-hmm.
What if you're speaking a curse over? Like, what if that's something that's actually like...
You're not speaking life, you're
It's
speaking
curse.
death. There's no in between.
I need to remember that.
I went catfishing.
Because I think that's what will maybe make it resonate for me, is that I'm speaking over someone else, like,
Because what if
negatively.
maybe if there is anything that could change the situation on the road,
Maybe it's
wouldn't
my
it be
attitude.
speaking life into the situation?
Yeah.
Instead of
Get away from the water
speaking
bottle.
curses over the person that's driving too slow in front of
Blessing
you,
them.
you pray
instead of
that God
cursing.
blesses them
Bingy. Bingy.
and gives them a great day. I mean, I can't say that I do that. I just don't react at all.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something I should try to start doing.
At the same time, like you said, like with you though, but it's not really bothering you though.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of like because they haven't even necessarily wronged us, but it seems like just like praying for people who have wronged you is like keeping hot coals in their head.
Mhm.
You know, even thinking about it that way. But that's just another example because we feel wronged.
Well,
You know
I
what
mean,
I mean?
before you guys got here, I wasn't really paying attention to the Todd White thing you were watching, but I heard him talking. He was at some church, and he had visions of like all the secret sins that the leadership was committing, and like talking about people conspiring to go against the pastor and like just different situations. And he called them all out on it. From what I like was picking up, he called them all out on it in front of everyone.
Yeah.
And the pastor.
Wow, they were in a private.
Well, I
meeting,
mean, but
but-
they were all
Yeah.
together. It wasn't like the congregation.
It was a
just
leadership
the leadership.
meeting.
But the pastor, like, washed their feet. Like, so he was just talking about, like, he just brought all this stuff to him, and he said, I love my people, or they're my people, and it's okay, and, like, wash their feet. After learning that they were conspiring against him. It's like, that's the kind of behavior we need to mimic. I'm not calling people idiots. Because they're driving slow. That's my problem. I am Melody, and I have a driving problem.
And that's the first step in the right direction. You bet you have a problem.
I'm Bob, and I don't have a problem. I am picture perfect.
Anyways.
Hi, I'm Beanie, and
Verse
I'm so
19.
gray, and I'm so fat.
Struck me because it made me think, don't really say a whole lot about her husband. You don't really know who he is, and like other than a merchant or whatever. So like my question is like, why is he like? And this I don't know if you even have an answer for this. But, like, is he like completely unaware of what's going on, like what she's doing or how she is? Is she that good at hiding it from him, or is he just not care, or you know, like what, like where is he at? Why is he gone for like months on end?
Well, and I wonder that too, because I thought the
You know.
next verse, he took a bag of money with him and will come home at the time of the full moon. Like, is that to say, like, he took a bag of money so he could survive? Did he take a bag of money to get prostitutes on his travels? Like, what? Like, why?
Why is that important?
What's significant about that?
Yeah.
That,
I mean, the first thing that it made me think of is he's a businessman.
Yeah.
It's on like a business trip.
took a bag of money for a business transaction. And like that makes sense about the full moon, because didn't they do things in like they would do like the seasons, and when the full moon arrives, I know it's time to go home. Like that's how they told time.
And this makes me wonder, and this is going maybe a little too deep, but like what I mean, with him being mentioned, like what does he represent spiritually?
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Well, I think he, yeah, I mean, the husband spiritually represents Jesus.
Oh, yeah,
what would
yeah.
that? How could that correlate?
That's just weird picturing Jesus going away on a business trip.
Right,
though.
taking a bag of money and then returning. Like, yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know.
So he could have done that and just not recorded it.
Is it? Oh, he went on. I too felt that was. It stood out to me. Also,
Yeah,
but I don't know why. I don't know why it stood out. It's just sometimes things stand out, and I'm not sure why they
that's all
do.
I'm not sure either. It just, I don't know, I never really thought about it before.
Just googling it to see if I can find anything.
Get that, like my armrest. My armrest is shedding a lot.
The only thing I've found so far is that it says here she gives a simple man the assurance that there is no fear of discovery of their act, since her husband has taken a large sum of cash needed because he will be away for a long time, returning at a set time and not before.
I guess if he left without any money, it would indicate that he was planning on coming home soon.
Yeah.
So a bag of money probably meant he'd be gone for a long
Like-
time.
Yeah, he took a large amount of money, so we don't have to worry about him coming home early.
Yeah.
So we don't have to worry about being caught.
I have to wonder if he had any idea when he was on his business trip.
Probably thought she was home making clothes or something.
If only I could build a time machine, go back in that time and find out. But I don't think time travel exists. Or probably does, but the government is being all hush hush and keeping key about it. I'm not letting us know.
I think cheers
Does anyone want to go bird hunting right now?
What do you do when...
You could hear. It's
Footnotes. I want to see what this... The spices that are mentioned stuck out to me. Because myrrh, aloe, and cinnamon was like... I mean, myrrh was like a really expensive perfume or oil.
Would that be like
So-
today's olive oil?
No. I mean, even now, like, you can get frankincense, gold frankincense and myrrh, you can get that and it's really expensive. Like a little bottle's like $80.
Yeah.
Like, so I wonder if that has any significance. Like,
It says here that the spices were found in sacred anointing oil, and the adulteress or religious system has only a false anointing with no true power.
say that again?
It says these spices were found in a sacred anointing oil. The adulteress or religious system has only a false anointing with no true power.
So it could be covenant oil for them.
Yep.
Waste of oil.
Here's some interesting insight into the husband thing.
Oh, do tell.
So it says the sly Jezebel here in Solomon's parable used this word to speak of her husband distantly and disrespectfully, to keep both consciences from thinking about her innocent husband for her lover from her youth. Her lover from her youth. Adultery usually requires some degree of criticism of spouses for it to ever occur.
Yeah.
She further spoke of her husband's long journey and implied frequent business trips by it to solicit sympathy from the fool that she was lonely and needed his love and affection. How many adulterers have excused their heinous sin by blaming their spouse, when it is rather a lack of the fear of God and temperance to keep them content in their marriage. So almost like another way to entice him into like feeling sorry because my husband is never home. He's always off on these long business trips. Takes all the money with him.
Doesn't leave anything for me.
Yep.
I gotta fend for myself.
I'm here lonely, and
so maybe that's what the big bag of money signifies. Not that he'll be gone, but that he's like taking all of her provision with him. So she's like left by herself with nobody to care for her or provide for her.
Kind of like the widow. Try to do everything by herself or for herself.
Yeah, except he's not dead. He's just being a butthead. Taken. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Both. It makes sense to signify the length of the trip that it's going to be, but it also, that's a good, because most guys, if a woman's like, oh, I don't have any way to provide for myself.
They'll try to sweep on it and play like the comforter role.
And Greg said this to me once, a damsel in distress syndrome.
Rapunzel, let down your long hair.
Says keep your marital separation to a minimum. Separation only makes a heart fonder if both parties are godly and the separation necessary. Otherwise, spouses have daily love-making obligations, and unnecessary separations become covenant-breaking and defrauding and give sexual place to Satan. It's 1 Corinthians 7, 1-5. God knew separation would occur due to business and war, so he prohibited them for the first year. That's in Deuteronomy 24:5.
Very interesting things.
It says, dear reader, the husband of the church will soon return, the Lord of glory, the bridegroom and husband of the church. And this gives reference to Matthew, Mark, Thessalonians, and 2 Peter. Will he find you waiting in adoring purity and faithfulness, or in bed with the world? The pleasure of meeting him confidently far exceeds any pleasures of sin for a season here.
Well, and that just kind of ties into the whole, he doesn't know it will cost him his life. Part of the chapter. By the time he figures it out, it might be.
Well, by the time he figures it out, the husband walks in the front door, kills him, and then they have a party. So really, it could cost him his life.
Or like Heaven's Gates and Hell's Flames always taught us. Sometimes it's just too late and you end up in hell.
Well, I guess I'll be having a lot
The
of
lakes
company.
of fire and gnashing of